Hello, everyone, and welcome to Kilowatt. My name is Bodie, and I am your host. And we have a very short show for you this afternoon, partly because Labor Day in the U.S., not a lot of news. I realized the U.S. is not the entire world. There just wasn't a lot of news that I thought was interesting. And the other part of it is I just got a lot going on. Got a bunch of kids stuff, choir, band, bunch of stuff, martial arts for the kids that needs to get done this week and next week. And then on top of that, I'm doing an interview for this show tomorrow that'll air later this month at the end of the month. Bart's going to come back on and we're going to chat about his latest EV adventure. And I'm working on a special 2-part series episode for this show that'll air at the beginning of October, the end of September, sometime around there. I have another interview that I recorded in August that I need to edit. I'm partially through that. I need to finish editing that, and that will go up at the end of the month. Just lots of stuff going on in my life right now. And I think I'm getting a little bit of a cold because I just feel very run down, and it might just be that I'm run down. But we have a short episode for you in either case. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Lucid Motors has a plan for a $50,000 EV. Peter Rawlinson, the CEO of Lucid, dropped this little tidbit in an interview with NBC News. Now, he didn't say anything else about this $50,000 car. And to be completely fair to Peter Rawlinson, he said, don't quote him on the price. That's just Lucid's target price. It might come in a little higher than that. He followed all of that up with the world. The world is in need of a $25,000 car, which is interesting because I don't think Lucid Motors would ever sell a $25,000 car. So, but I do agree with him. We do need more affordable EVs, even if they have lower range. I'd be okay with 180 miles of range for a $19,000 car. That would still be okay. All right, let's move on to Chinese automaker XPeng. They are expanding into 3 new markets in 2024. Those markets are the Netherlands, Sweden, and Denmark. All right. Up next, we got the 2024 VW ID.4. This vehicle is getting some improvements. Most notably, the infotainment system. I'm not sure if you remember or not, but way back when they introduced the ID.3s and the ID.4s, the early ID.4s, the infotainment system was just Frankenstein's monster. They had so many problems, so much so that they couldn't ship the cars because they are waiting on updates. And this was because they used a lot of different vendors for the infotainment system, and it just really didn't work very good together. Now, over time, VW shipped updates, and it got better. To be fair to them, they've made improvements over the years. However, it's still a little bit laggy. It's not best in class in terms of responsiveness and other stuff. So the new system will be customizable. It'll have fixed function bars at the top and at the bottom. Like one of the fixed bars at the bottom is climate control, things like that. The new system, the new infotainment system, is quick and responsive. It's got a bigger 12.9-inch display. And I don't know what VW is thinking here, but this new infotainment system's only available in the all-wheel drive 82 kilowatt-hour model. If you go with the 62 kilowatt-hour rear-wheel drive model, you get the same old infotainment system. But what you will get is new motors, both for the 82 kilowatt-hour battery pack all-wheel drive and the rear-wheel drive 62 kilowatt-hour battery pack. So the current rear-wheel drive ID.4 has 201 horsepower. The 2024 ID.4 will have 282 horsepower, so a nice bump there. The all-wheel drive will go from 295 horsepower, which is the current model, to 330 horsepower. So a nice little spec bump in general, but I just don't understand why Volkswagen wouldn't make the infotainment system work with the 62 kilowatt hour battery and the rear wheel drive. I just don't understand why they wouldn't do that. Moving on, Mercedes-Benz. I don't normally talk about concept cars. I'm trying to get away from that. But Mercedes showed off one of the coolest concepts I've seen in a while. It's CLA class. It's small. It's futuristic. The digital display goes across the whole dash. And I felt like there was some classic car instrument cluster vibes going on. Like I buy a new car every 10 or so years, right? So I could see myself that this car was out. I could see myself definitely considering it because I'm not going to have kids. It's just going to be me and my wife at that time. I'm still going to have kids. They just won't be living at home. It'll just be me and my wife. And this might be a fun car to put around in, just, depending on what the actual production version looks like, if that ever hits, becomes a real thing. But it's a cool looking car. There were some other concepts that were showed off this week. Mercedes has a smaller, or is thinking about making a smaller version of the G-Wagon that would be electric. And VW showed off the ID.GTI concept, and it's that car is really cute. It's a souped up ID.3. But yeah. Super, super cool concepts coming out. Not going to say any more on that just because, they're concepts. What isn't a concept, though, is Mercedes-Benz has a big over-the-air update. And most of these are entertainment updates, so let's go over them. There's some audio improvements, screen updates, something really cool. The Google Maps now has a lot of details, like 200 million businesses. That'll have the photo of the business, the hours, which is really helpful when you're in an area that you're not familiar with. They have a thing called News Flash where you can just tell the car, hey, blankety blank, read me the news headlines or whatever. And the car will read you news headlines based on your preferences. I don't know if this is going to be briefs like what Amazon Echo does, but, still a neat concept. There'll be, like I mentioned, an entertainment package, which will include a YouTube web app. I don't know if any other apps, it didn't say if like Netflix or Hulu would be included in this, or if it's already in there. I'm just not familiar enough with Mercedes. One of the cool things is this update will allow some of the cars to have Dolby Atmos, which is really neat if you're watching movies in your car. And there's some more updates. It's a big one for Mercedes for sure. The updates will depend on the region that you're in, the model year of your vehicle, which model you're driving, and the software generation your vehicle's on. So basically what I'm saying is you may get all or just a small portion of these updates, depending on those factors. All right, everybody, that is it for me this week. It's been a while since I've done a show this short. Before we go, I do have our patrons to thank, and I want to start with David, Ravi, Jerbo, Sean, Chip, and Dale, Nick, Charles, Electron Raceway Fabricator, Scott, Gene, Chris, Jamie, Mo Cowbell, Don, Stephen, Alex, Alan, Andrew, Friendly Sleet 66, Joseph, Jeffrey, Steve, Bruce W., Isaiah, Howard, Jessica Kirsch, youtube.com/Jessica Kirsch, Bruce with a C, Muskie Cyberrack, Rolando Tomaso, Chris, Sierra, My Sierra, Don, Cameron, Nate, Mark, and James. So thank you all for supporting this show on Patreon. By the way, James has a podcast called True North EVs. You should definitely check that out as well. If you want to join these wonderful people who support this show, you can go to patreon.com/kilowatt or supportkilowatt.com. You can also look in the show notes and you'll see the Patreon link. And there's also an Acast Plus link where you can support the show and get an ad-free version of the show as well. All right, everybody, that is it for me today. Tomorrow, I'm going to be doing, like I said, an interview, but that won't air for a while. But tomorrow's show is also going to be very short. So an easy week for the listeners this week, not so much for me. Thank you very much for listening, and I will talk to you on Friday.